Hello from Columbus, Ohio. I'm Scott Foltz alongside Jason Dye. Those stories plus Tennessee takes on Alabama and the Nittany Lions head to Ann Arbor.
TCU looks to put down another Oklahoma team, and the Warriors of Troy invade the Beehive State. All that coming up after this. You're watching Sports Talk on CFC, so stick around.
7 weeks into the season, we finally get to do some game reviews. Starting off with Oklahoma State and Baylor, the Cowboys came out shooting in this one. Baylor did score first with a 34-yard field goal, and the Bears managed to hold off OK State until an 8-yard touchdown pass with just over 5 minutes to play in the first quarter. The Cowboys opened the second quarter with a safety, and the next points were not scored until a 1-yard Oklahoma State touchdown run with 27 seconds remaining in the half. The Cowboys then ran back the second half kickoff for a 23-3 lead. Baylor responded with a 49-yard touchdown pass, followed by a 2-yard rush for 14 unanswered points, and were now within 6. The Cowboys responded with a 50-yard pass and a 1-yard rush to pull ahead 30-17, then tacked on 3 more before Baylor ran one in, went for 2, and got it. 33-25, and all of that was in the third quarter. The next points weren't scored until the Cowboys kicked one in from 31 yards with 4:48 left in the game. Those were also the final points of the game. 36-25, Mike Gundy's Cowboys remain undefeated.
And yes, very impressive win for Oklahoma State. And right now, I do believe they are the favorite to win the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. Heading south now, the Tide rolled into Arkansas and made bacon out of the Hogs. 14 points in the first quarter, 14 more in the second to Arkansas's single touchdown in the second quarter. Now, the Hogs came back in the third with 16 unanswered as they shut out Alabama for the quarter and an onside kick that actually worked. It had no bearing on the game. It's just so rare to see an onside kick that actually works, I had to mention it here. A field goal and a touchdown later, and Arkansas was within 5 against the number 2 team in the country. But with 1 quarter left to play, Alabama reminded them why they're the number 2 team in the country. Opening the fourth quarter from their own 20, 3rd and 15, a 77-yard quarterback keeper set up a 3-yard touchdown rush, followed shortly after by a 72-yard touchdown run, putting the Tide up 42-23. Arkansas kicked for 3 before another 77-yard rush from Alabama, this one going all the way. That was the final score of the game, 49-26 Alabama, an impressive win over a tough team.
Yes, and once again, Nick Saban finds a way to turn it up. Just right when you think you're going to get close and get a shot, he finds a way to get it done.
Over now to the Big Ten, the Hawkeyes hosting Michigan, and this one was the low-scoring defensive game that you said it would be. The Wolverines bit first with a 16-yard touchdown run for the only points of the first quarter. Second quarter action was all defense. The only points were off 2 Michigan field goals to send it to the locker rooms with Michigan up 13-0. More of the same to open the third quarter, Michigan throwing a short 12-yard pass for another touchdown and a 20-0 lead. Iowa came up just short in the final play of the third quarter from the Michigan 30 just as time ran out, but they were forced out at the 2. Next play, the Hawkeyes got their 2 yards and their first points of the game to open the fourth quarter. The Wolverines answered with a 20-yard touchdown run with 1:20 left in the game, and Iowa scored one of their own with 8 seconds remaining, and that was all for this one. 27-14 Michigan. Are these two defenses for real, or are these two offenses just in a lot of trouble?
Well, I think honestly both of these defenses are pretty good, but I am questioning Michigan a little bit with Iowa having a lackluster offense, still able to put up 14 on them. I'm not 100% sold.
It was late in the game.
It was late in the game.
But you need to put up points early and often, as Michigan did. Not very many, but they still put them up.
Yep, found a way to win.
Kentucky and Ole Miss was almost as evenly matched as you'll get this weekend. The Rebels started off hot, scoring twice in the first quarter, while Kentucky just couldn't get anything going until the final minute when they ran back the kick to the Ole Miss 15 from their own end zone. With 6 seconds left, the Wildcats punched it in off a 10-yard run to end the first quarter, though the Rebels did block the extra point attempt. An intentional grounding call on Kentucky in their own end zone resulted in a safety and gave Ole Miss 2 more early in the second. The Rebels were able to add 3 more from 53 yards out before Kentucky ran one in with 1:23 left to go into halftime, trailing by 7. Third quarter action saw the Wildcats tie it up at 19, and it looked like things might just be starting to go their way until a 26-yard boot put the Rebels up 22-19, and those were the final points of the game as neither team could get anywhere in the fourth. Last week you called Kentucky a sleeper team in the SEC, and with good reason. They were undefeated at the time. Did things just not go their way, or is Ole Miss just that good?
I'm still not 100% sold on Ole Miss. I just think things didn't go Kentucky's way in this one. It's kind of unfortunate. I want to see what their how much they could keep rolling. I think they're going to still make some noise, but yeah, hats off to Ole Miss.
Over to the Atlantic coast now, Clemson hosted NC State in what turned out to be another defensive game. Despite both teams putting up over 270 total yards, the Wolfpack had 279, while the Tigers moved the ball 354 yards for the game. There wasn't a lot of big scoring in this one. Each team could only get 3 in the first, while both teams found the end zone in the second. NC State even taking the lead. Clemson added another field goal to end the first half 13-10. 3.5 minutes into the second half, the Tigers added to their lead with the only touchdown of the third quarter, though the Wolfpack was able to pick up 3 more from 49 yards out. Fourth quarter, Clemson lengthened their lead by 3 more, this one from 44 yards, the Tigers also adding another touchdown. NC State was able to run one in with 55 seconds left, but the onside kick went out of bounds, and that was it for this one. 30-20 Clemson. Great effort by NC State, coming within 10 of the number 5 team in the country. Take nothing away from them, it just wasn't their night.
It wasn't, and usually NC State plays Clemson tough. That's why it's such a great game to watch. It's good TV. Dabo, he's got this offense, defense, kind of keeping things in front of him right now. It's good for them. I mean, yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah, staying within 10 like that's way to hang in there. Staying in the ACC, Wake Forest and Florida State was another 10-point game for that conference. FSU scored first and early with a 13-yard touchdown pass just 2 minutes into the game. Wake Forest marched it right down the field late in the quarter and punched it in on a 4th and 1 running play for their first touchdown. The Demon Deacons took the lead early in the second with a 4-yard touchdown pass, then lengthened that lead off an FSU turnover that resulted in a 20-yard pass to pull ahead by 2 touchdowns, 21-7 at halftime. Wake Forest opened the third quarter with another touchdown, though this time it took 2 minutes and 40 seconds to stretch their lead to 21 points. The Seminoles finally found the end zone with just over 7 minutes left in the third, but the 2-point conversion was intercepted. The fourth quarter broke the 2-minute scoring pattern as Florida State wouldn't score until around the 9:30 mark, closing the gap to 28-21 after a successful 2-point conversion, and it looked like the Noles might be coming back. Wake Forest had other ideas, though, kicking one more from 27 yards and holding off the Seminoles 31-21. FSU showed some fire in this game, but it was just a little too late, and Wake Forest's lead was just too early and too big to overcome.
Yep, and it just, I thought FSU was going to win this game, but obviously Wake Forest had other plans here, and you've got to score early and often, and obviously maybe the FSU defense isn't as good as I might have anticipated. It could be.
One of the games we were going to discuss last week was the Red River Showdown. The annual contest between the Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners goes back 118 years and is usually very close, but this was the most lopsided game since 1908. That year, the Sooners went over 50-0. This year, almost the mirror image with the Longhorns going up 49-0. Beginning of the year, you picked Oklahoma to win the Big 12. Do you still stand by that after seeing this?
No. It's
just flat out no.
No, it's a dumpster fire with Oklahoma right now. I don't know what the heck's going on, but they are not playing football. I don't know what they're playing, but they're not playing football. They're not. It's a dumpster fire. I mean, that's really all can be said.
Looking ahead to this week, we start off in the SEC with a fast-rising Tennessee team taking on the now third-ranked Alabama after the Tide went over Texas A&M last week by just 4 points. Are the wheels coming off Alabama's wagon here, and could this be Tennessee's any given Saturday, as you like to say?
I think some things with Alabama have been exploited over here in the last few weeks. But the first question for Bama is do they get Bryce Young back? Will he play?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of speculation he will. There's a lot of speculation he won't. The second thing for me is how do you stop Hooker for Tennessee right now? How do you? The guy's been on fire. I like Tennessee in the upset, 38-30.
Close one. Turning now to the Big Ten, 2 of the 3 remaining perfect Big Ten teams will meet in Ann Arbor as Michigan will host Penn State in a matchup that will shape the Big Ten East. Michigan took down Indiana last week by 21 points in a fairly one-sided game, while Penn State went over a struggling Northwestern by 10. Both schools are historically good programs and are usually in the hunt for the Big Ten championship. The Wolverines are the current champions, but do they have what it takes to tame the Nittany Lions?
Well, first of all, my thing is how do they stop Sean Clifford in the running attack for Penn State? I think they still are playing decent ball at Penn State. And this Michigan defense is going to get tested. You're going to get a lot of questions answered right here.
We can have answers questions. It's like Jeopardy.
Yeah, right. So, but I honestly think though Michigan, they're going to find a way. They're going to get the ground and pound going. Jay McCarthy may not have the greatest stat line this game, but I think Blake Corum could have a big game. But I think Michigan finds a way to win 26-20.
You think it'll be that close? Because I mentioned Penn State went over Northwestern by 10. Northwestern's won 1 game all year.
Right. Well, Big Ten football. So, I think anybody in Big Ten can beat anybody on any given day. So, but I just think this is going to be these 2 teams. You sort of statistically and usually 2 teams that just ground and pound each other all day. So, we're going to find out.
From the Big Ten to the Big 12, Oklahoma State will travel to Fort Worth and face a hot TCU. The Horned Frogs thrashed Oklahoma 55-24 2 weeks ago and would like nothing more than to do the same to Oklahoma State. The Cowboys have had some close games the last 2 weeks, beating Baylor by 11 and Texas Tech by 9. We mentioned TCU's victory over the Sooners, but they just squeaked by Kansas last week by 7. It looks to me like the Cowboys have all the momentum heading into this one.
Yeah, and the key for me is for Oklahoma State to win this game is their defense. But I still think this game's going to be a shootout, and it's going to come down to defense. Who gets that last stop, and at the end of the game. But TCU obviously has been better than expected, especially beating Oklahoma. So this one, like I said, I think it's going to be a shootout. Oklahoma State wins 45-41.
All right. And we have a look at the top 10s of the teams in the country this week. Jay?
Yep, the top 10 teams in the country this week. The defending national champion, Georgia Bulldogs, are still kings of the mountain. Ohio State gets some love, up a notch to reclaim the number 2 spot, while Alabama falls to 3rd. Clemson comes in at 4th, and Michigan drops to 5th. Tennessee is climbing, ranks up to number 6. I think that's going to change after this week. While USC sits at 7. Oklahoma State moves up to 8. I think they may bump up a spot if they're beating TCU. Ole Miss is 9th, and Penn State rounds out the top 10 college football teams for Week 7.
All right. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. We'll try to make it 2 in a row next week, and we hope to see you there. You've been watching Sports Talk on CFC. We'll see you next time.